Hey everybody, movie review next door here, and let me move this light a bit. Looks a bit dark for some reason, but whatever. This is going to be an interesting one, because I'm going to have some controversial opinions on this one. But I'm back with the Bond reviews, only 2 to go after this, which is nice, because these next 2 are 2 of the longest in the series. Yay. This one, the one I watched tonight, was Skyfall. This film's from 2012, directed by Sam Mendes. And it stars Daniel Craig, Judi Dench, Javier Bardem, Naomi Harris, Ralph Fiennes, Ben Whishaw, Albert Finney, and Berenice Marlowe. Now, in this film, Bond's latest assignment goes gravely wrong and agents around the world are exposed, and MI6 is attacked, forcing M to relocate the agency. These events cause her authority and position to be challenged by Gareth Mallory, the new chairman of the Intelligence and Security Committee. With MI6 no compromise from both inside and out, M is left with one ally she can trust, Bond. 007 takes to the shadows, aided only by a field agent, Eve, following a trail to the mysterious Silva, whose lethal and hidden motives have yet to reveal themselves. Okay. So what did I think of Skyfall? Now, I was actually kind of looking forward to watching it this time because I didn't mind Daniel Craig in the last film. And he is far from the issue here. I think this is just barely decent for me as a Bond film. As a Bond film, this is on the lower end for me, as is Casino Royale. But I'd put Casino Royale above this because at least the characters were more interesting. In this film, it's either uninteresting characters or characters that really I grew to dislike their portrayal in this film. So, yeah, it's just barely decent for me. This is on the lower end of my ranking of all the films so far. I have like a list, and I was gonna do like a video in the future, like going chronologically how I feel about each of the films in small words and doing like a stream maybe. So we'll see. But yeah. But yeah, those are my thoughts. If you haven't seen the film, or you're okay with, if you're not okay with being spoiled about the film, I am going to go into spoilers, because I have to talk about certain things about this film that really rub me the wrong way, and I feel like some things are just glossed over, some things don't have much weight, and it just kind of feels a bit slapdash in parts. So, my thoughts before I get into the cast. Yes, I think the film is decent, but it has a laundry list of problems that could have easily made it just okay, which is the same place I have Die Another Day, which, yes, this is better than Die Another Day. This is, of course it is. I just didn't connect with this one like everybody did, and I will explain why. So, from now on, spoilers. Daniel Craig as Bond. I think he does a good job in this film. I think he is steadily getting better and better as the character. He still has his moments where he's not that great, but more often than not in this film, he is pretty good. Judi Dench as M. My issues with Judi Dench as M is not with her acting. She acts the character well. I like Judi Dench as an actress. My issues are with how they've written the character in this film, and I will get to that. Javier Bardem as Silva. He's the villain. I don't really care for him. I know there are people who will disagree with me. I just don't think he's a threatening villain. I don't think he is interesting. The only real standout feature about him is that M apparently left him to die, and he chewed on his the cyanide capsule that was in his tooth, and it didn't kill him, it just destroyed his insides. And I'll get to that. But he's just kind of a bland villain. He's very boring. The way he goes out is very boring. So yeah, not much to say. Naomi Harris is Eve Moneypenny, because yeah, this is the new Moneypenny. I don't mind her. I like her as Moneypenny. I'm fine with it. Her scenes with Craig are well done. She's basically the Bond girl of the film, even though they don't like have sex. It's like, I guess, implied. I'm not really sure. But Ray Fiennes is Gareth Mallory. He's fine. He doesn't have much to do. He's kind of just there to set up the fact that he's going to be M from Spectre onward. Ben Whishaw is Q. I actually like him. I've heard certain people have had issues with his portrayal of the character. They think he's too young, which he is. He was like 32, I think, in this when they filmed this, or 31. He looks a lot younger. He's not that bad looking. But yeah, it is interesting, instead of making Q like a 60-something year old or late 50s guy, and instead making him a young, like, Oxford student or whatever. I think that was interesting. Albert Finney as Kincaid. He's a small character from Bond's past. I liked him. I like Albert Finney. I think he's a good actor. And Berenice Marlowe as Severin. Not much to say. She is, I guess, if I'm considering Eve the main Bond girl, I'm sorry if you're hearing things. I'm tired of this shit. I guess she's technically the secondary Bond girl. There's not much to her character. The opening title sequence, I think, is decent. It feels like it's trying a bit too hard. Because the last two had a nice style to them where they didn't feel the need to, like, show off. It was more just like, this opening really has nothing to do with the film. And the last two actually tied into their films, as did all of the Pierce Brosnan ones. So, and the song Skyfall by Adele, many lists consider this like the best Bond song ever. I don't agree. I think it's a decent song, though. It's a decent Bond theme. But yeah, just getting into the story, I can see a good version of this film. In my head, I can see a better version of this film with a better villain, like, better, the fact that so many people say this is like a be-all end-all Bond film, as if like, oh yeah, Daniel Craig is perfect in this. I think he's good for what he's going for, but perfect, no, he's far from it. A big issue with this film is tone. Now, people might disagree with me. They are allowed to do that. But hear me out, actually. Don't just be like, oh, you didn't get the point. I did get the point. This film is trying to be two things. It's trying to be, A, a Daniel Craig Bond movie, which means that it's trying to be like Casino Royale, where it's like very dry, very, serious, down to earth, but it also wants to be a goofy, like, or a more lighthearted and out of this world Bond film, like You Only Live Twice, or Moonraker. It has sequences that feel like they're trying to be that. You get a real big tonal disconnect there, where it doesn't feel like the film knows exactly what it wants to be. It doesn't feel connected. Because you'll have scenes like, there's a scene of Bond and Moneypenny, like, Bond chooses to let Moneypenny, like, shave his face, And then and it's supposed to be like a lighthearted, like cheery scene, and then the next scene leads to Severin and Bond talking about how she was in a sex trade. Like, another example, there's a scene where M, who I'll get to my issues with M in this film, M is in a meeting with Parliament, I think it is. I'm not sure if it was Parliament, but she's in a hearing talking about the agents that have been killed. Because the villain, like, spilled a bunch of data about the agents that were undercover, like their covers, and some of them have been killed. And during the scene, a lot of people are just... Excuse me. A lot of members of Parliament, I guess it's Parliament, are just shot down pretty... I mean, it's PG-13, but, like, it's supposed to be an intense scene. It's supposed to be like, oh yeah, something fucked up is happening. These people aren't supposed to be dying. And then the very next scene leads into a joke with Bond, like Judi Dench whining about how uncomfortable the Aston Martin seats are, and he threatens to, like, he jokingly threatens to use the ejector seat on her. Like, you just went from a scene where these officials have been gunned down because of M. It is mainly her fault. And I will explain what I mean. To a joke. This film does what... If this film had gone for the full, like, the full-on serious tone, it would have been better. Because this film is trying to have its cake and eat it too. It's trying to be what people have been praising as, like, oh, it's a more down-to-earth Bond, but it also wants to satiate the fans of the older films. And it does neither, like, consistently. It goes in between. Like, even at the beginning, like, you're supposed to think Bond is dead, and then later they just, like, they're just like, oh, you're the one that shot me, hoo-hoo. Like, there's nothing said about it. Even after M's death, even the scene after M dies in Bond's arms, I know it's a massive spoiler, I did warn of spoilers. Even after the scene where M dies in Bond's arms, and it's supposed to be a touching scene, the very next scene is a joke. Like, if anybody knows the channel Game Grumps, there was a bit where Aaron talked about how he thought Skyfall was decent, but it doesn't really fully work because Daniel Craig's Bond is so serious and they keep doing goofy shit. That's what I mean. I agree with that. This film isn't terrible. It's just that I can see what kind of film this should have been. And what I think it should have been was more like License to Kill, or even The Living Daylights, where it tried to keep, like, a very down-to-earth tone and had small bits of humor sprinkled in at just the right moments. Here, it's not sprinkled in at just the right moments. And also, M. The whole thing about M. In the past 6 Bond films, M has been a woman, played by Judi Dench. In the past couple, she's been very bitter, especially Casino Royale. She's played very bitter, and I've never been a big fan of that, like playing M as a straight up bitter character. Even Bernard Lee, like, well, I mean, the worst of it was Man with the Golden Gun, but even there, you could tell that he was just mad that everything's going wrong. He's not specifically mad at Bond. But I'm not the biggest fan of this M. I'm really not. Judi Dench plays her well. Judi Dench plays M well. She does. But seriously, I don't understand the people who will say that Judi Dench is better than Bernard Lee. I don't see it at all. Also, this version of M constantly gets people killed. Constantly. She doesn't get the agents pulled out quick enough. They get killed. And during the speech that she has in front of Parliament, where she's quoting poetry later in it, Tanner next to her gets a message and is like, escort M out quickly, help her escape. She ignores it. She says, I'm not turning my back to this bitch or something. There's like a woman bitching her out about it, and another message comes through later. Again, she says, I'm not leaving, I'm getting this done. M could have very easily stopped all of these Parliament members' deaths. She could have, but she chose not to. And then later in the film, she says, I really fucked it up, didn't I? And I audibly was like, yeah, you did. You fucked up. You really did. You are the reason that this villain is chasing everybody. You decided to leave him for dead, and he's still not an interesting villain. Like, you have that interesting bit of, oh, the good guy actually did something really bad. And yeah, nothing really ever comes of it. There's no real, other than M dying, it's not even clear who killed M. She has a bullet wound, and frickin' Silva's like, oh, who shot you? Who did that? But, like, yeah, and then Bond is like, no, you didn't do this. You're not the reason this is fucked up. Like, yes, she is. There's so many issues with this film. Also, the writing. The writing, at many points, does not work. It all has to do with the tone, the constantly back and forth, really awkward tone of this film, where it goes from super serious to super childish even. I love the more comedic Bond movies. I really do. I like the lighter tone. That's what I want in an over-the-top spy movie. But this film doesn't do it in the right way. Like, especially where they try to have this character story with Bond, where after he gets shot by Moneypenny, he's still recovering with his shooting arm. It's been months since he's been in service, I think. I forgot if it's been months or whatever. He'd been like hiding out, pretending to be dead, and then he realized, oh, MI6 building was under attack, more people have died. But yeah, there are random points throughout the movie where Bond has a clear shot at Silva and just does not kill him. He just chooses to not kill him for some fucking reason, even though he's the one that has the he's the one that's been posting the names of the agents online. He could just shoot them at any time. And this is one of the most blatant in the series things of, oh, he's specifically not a good shot when the plot needs him to be. So there's a point right before the whole Parliament shooting thing where Bond has a clear shot at Silva, but he just for some reason stops shooting at him while he's climbing up a ladder. It's never really fully explained. It's really just baffling that people think that this is like a perfect Bond film. I really don't see it. And later in the film, he's a perfect shot and doesn't miss like a single shot when the people are raiding the house. It doesn't make any sense. It's random. And this is just the day after the day where he misses all the shots at Silva climbing up the ladder. He just so happens to be perfect when the assassins are coming upon the house, his like childhood home. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, even with all my nitpicks, with all my big problems, I think the film is decent. It's just barely decent though. Daniel Craig does a good job. He does. He sells the role. I still don't think he's sexy. There are people that think he's sexy. I don't. Like, I don't. It's just hard to talk about this one because it does have so many problems. And I'm surprised not really anybody else has talked about it. But, like, I guess I'll get to the pros and cons. Pros: Daniel Craig, Judi Dench, Naomi Harris, Ben Whishaw, Albert Finney, all do good jobs. Interesting characters for the most part. The direction by Sam Mendes and the cinematography from Roger A. Deakins. People talk about this guy like he's like the best cinematographer ever. Or director of photography. His photography in the film is fine. I can't really say it's fantastic. There's good lighting, but that's not his thing. It's cinematography or photography or whatever. Like, I don't think the film really felt like 2 hours and 23 minutes. I guess it's well paced enough. Sorry if you heard that. There's some good sets. The childhood home is an interesting set. I liked it. The Parliament. I keep calling it Parliament. I don't even remember if it was Parliament, but that was a good set. The underground, like, MI6 layer, because MI6 is onto their third fucking layer, and they have like a fourth one in the first bit of the movie. Like, they went from the one in Casino Royale to... No, by the end of the movie, they have a fifth one. I don't know why this film has, like, 3 different MI6 layers. Or 3 different MI6 buildings. It's ridiculous. But, they're well-constructed sets. They really are. I have to wonder where a lot of the money went. Because, well, the action is decent. I don't hate it. I think Quantum of Solace had better action, to be honest. Except for the editing. I found it a lot more exciting. There's the bit at the beginning with the construction equipment onto the, like, latching onto the back of the train car, them fist fighting on the train car. At the end, the shootout at the house. Like, it's fun. Cons: the score. I wasn't big on the score. The score was, I think this guy does the score for this and Spectre. Give me just a second. Thomas Newman. Yeah, it was pretty dull. Very repetitive. He overuses tracks all the time. He uses the same track multiple times. The da 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 da, which it gets really old really quick. The score is very... It feels like just normal Hollywood it feels like generic Hollywood action music. It really does. Again, I hate M's character in this, and the fact that she dies really doesn't affect anything for me, because, I mean, she comes off as a real bitch in this movie. I mean, especially getting people killed and getting people injured that didn't need to be injured or killed. I wish Severin was more of a character. Yeah, I mean, I can't really say much else about this. It's just in the decent because of the action and a couple cool action scenes, and it looks kind of nice at places, and Daniel Craig. So that's about all I can give it. I know people will definitely not agree with me. To each their own. But if you like the review, comment down below, like the video, subscribe, and movie reviewer next door out.